Now, elevation certificates are basically like nothing to them. And it's like, why did we change this whole flood insurance policy to something that's so much worse, that basically Louisiana, Florida, all these places that it gets flood are basically covering for the United States now?
Welcome back to another episode.
Another episode of the Two Agents, One Cup.
Oh, wow. I'm with my co-host. I'm glad Scott's going to have the crazy energy. Sky Werner with the Capstone Team,
Brokered by EXP.
brokered by EXP and his lovely wife, Sarah,
Sarah.
and
All the money.
your co-host, Donovan Johnson. Just glad to be here, if I'm being honest. Again, the pod really wasn't my forethought or something I really wanted to jump on, but Scott was persistent, and now I'm glad that
We're here.
I'm just glad we're here. Yeah.
We're vibing.
So go ahead. What do you want to talk about today, Scott?
All right. So today we're going to talk about flood insurance. And if you do not live in anywhere in Louisiana, you need flood insurance. I mean, even if you're above I-10, it's still flood insurance.
Dude.
All right, so flood insurance is something that the government, it's only the federal government that it's backed by FEMA. It's flood insurance policy is something that you have to have if you're in a flood zone
Or have a mortgage.
or have a mortgage. If you have a mortgage in a flood zone, you have to have it. If you're in X flood zone, which is the best, there's X, there's AE, there's VE.
He is wetlands.
Yeah, wetlands. you deep in it. But there's a multitude of flood zones. And that just says basically, your risk of getting the floodwaters in your house. So you have to have this. It's sponsored by the federal government, and it's something that as a person that lives in X flood zone, I have it. Because if you don't have it and you have floodwaters come into your house, you are screwed. Because guess what? Insurance, your regular homeowner's insurance, does not cover that. If any rising water enters that house and you don't have flood insurance, boo-boo. You're in a bad way.
Also, you got to keep in mind, a lot of times people will try to put flood insurance like for hurricane season.
Yeah.
But if you wait too late, the prices are skyrocket. It's like trying to go to Disney in the summertime, or during Christmas. It's probably going to be jam packed, and you're going to get a really, really bad rate. So,
And plus, sometimes they lock it.
oh, if the storm starts, you're right. Once
They
it starts,
lock it.
they bind everybody, so you can't.
They lock it. So you don't be like, hey, I'm gonna get it just in time for the storm. I think if it's in the Gulf, now I could be wrong. I could be wrong when I say this, but I think once it hits the Gulf, it's locked.
Yeah, they won't write.
They won't write. Man, and I think that's even if it's a tropical storm.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a hurricane coming in the Gulf. It can be just a named storm,
Mhm.
or even tropical depression coming into the Gulf. It's locked. So, well, Scott, what do we need to talk about flood insurance for? It's something that you need. It's something that's a part of every real estate agent's career. Like I said, I'm the type of person that has it. I mean, if you owned a house in the X flood zone, I would say in South Lake Charles, would you have it? What is your mindset on flood insurance? If you live in X flood zone, never had a drop of flood water in it, even after the May flood, that was after Hurricane Laura, that the May after that was that huge flood. That X flood zone doesn't usually ever get flooded, but it got flooded.
If I can zoom out a little bit more on the,
Yeah.
would it be micro? Yeah, I think this is a micro effect, but something that also stuff can be in flood zone X, but you know what doesn't help flood zone X at all? the fact that, like, a lot of the ditches and stuff are not dug out properly, so, like, our drainage even if you're in flood zone X, there's a good chance that you have some low levels to where you are not that safe.
No.
So, me personally, my personal home, probably always gonna have flood unless I somehow dig a trench like a reverse Noah vibe, you know what I'm saying? But, it's what stinks about it is that, this nigga laughing so hard, and is, that is a wild bar.
Uh,
Noah's like, "This nigga crazy." Uh Investments, though, is where I think flood insurance first of all, if it's in AE or whatever, you might as well just pay cash,
yeah,
because if you pay something cash, then it's yours, you ain't gotta have
you don't
insurance.
have to.
But I've seen so many there I have investors that used to buy in flood zone because it didn't matter and the flood policy was under 2,000 a year. But dude, AE, anything, it could be never flooded, be in a flood zone, and they want like $5,000, $6,000 a year for flood.
Coming to that. So that's that FEMA 2.0. That's that FEMA 2.0 that happened right when you and I started.
Mhm.
That's when it changed. And so now the FEMA 2.0, yeah, you be lucky. Some X flood zones are like
Ridiculous.
$2,500.
Ridiculous.
It's like, okay, I thought X was supposed to be great. Like I pay $900 a year and
You pay $900 a year.
yeah, for flood.
Bro,
And guess what? It goes up 18% each year. Thank you, federal government.
what's the cap though? Because it's supposed to cap.
I have not looked at my policy to see
Okay.
the cap. Now, it does have a cap and it will grow to that cap, but
So just real quick, because I think we're talking lingo right now. With the 2.0, basically, they when we say cap, we mean that it can't if the insurance is supposed to jump, it can't just jump like 100%. It can only jump X amount per year, and it's usually like
18.
18% until it hits the new policy number. So while it sucks, they did try to like taper off. So
They did.
just wanted to stop a second and
But guess what? Like you said, if you're living in AE, you might as well. If you're doing investments in AE, you might as well pay cash because some of those flood policies, $7,000, $8,000 a year, even higher. It's just like
and you know what also flood insurance has been jacking up, man? The multifam game. Between the flood insurance and regular insurance, like, it'll price you out of something that like, there's an 18 unit in Sulphur, that would be a really good deal, but it's in the smack dab middle of a flood zone, besides needing renovations, but you would need to pay for it cash to make sense.
you talking about mine?
No, it's another one.
Another one.
Yeah.
Stop looking at those. Look at mine only. I think it's an X. I don't know.
Your guy won't take, like, 360 for it, it's the problem. He wants, like, 400.
I could probably work some magic. But getting back to flood, it's like the piece of land that I have in Graywood is in AE. And well, Scott, that's the bad. Guess what? I can't put flood insurance right now on a piece of land. You don't put flood insurance on a land. You put it on a house. Well, I didn't build my house yet. My worry is in 2 to 4 years when I do build my house, what is it going to be then?
Mhm.
And flood insurance is just a funny thing. Now, you could get a LOMA, which is it's basic I don't know the exact name for it, but it's basically redrawing the maps of the flood map. You bring it to FEMA, so you have, a elevation certificate.
Yeah,
When you
you go to your city,
yeah,
go to their surveyor, they go out there, you pay, like, 300 bucks. You can go get your land surveyed. You send the survey and some other stuff to the FEMA. It's a website. Everything's online. They look at elevation of the land. They look at if there's been any improvements to like raise elevation. They look at if you're going to bring in dirt work or not.
mhm,
So like they just ask a bunch of questions and you submit it in, and the form's like 100 bucks. And by the end of it, you're about 500 to 600 bucks in to try and move yourself out of a flood zone.
but guess what? Now with FEMA 2.0, so I had somebody do this in Palmetto in Graywood. He already had the elevation certificates. He was already above base flood elevation, which is called BFE. So he did the whole exercise. It took it was like a 90-day process because he messed up, like, twice. It wasn't a full night he's like, "Man, it would've been like a 45-day process if I would've done this right." But with the FEMA 2.0, doesn't help him. It doesn't help him at all. So now he is surrounded by AE. He is an X, but it doesn't help him because the cash I mean, because of that FEMA 2.0, he's surrounded by AE, so his price is still up here. And I was like, "Man, that sucks." Now that because you used to be able to, when it was FEMA 1.0, you used to be able to hand in an elevation certificate to some insurance and some insurance brokers and would go to FEMA, and they used to be able to lower it. Now, elevation certificates are basically, like, nothing to them. And it's like, why did we change this whole flood insurance policy to something that's so much worse that basically Louisiana, Florida, all these places that it gets flood are basically covering for the United States now. I just don't understand why they're trying to price flood insurance out, where you used to be able to get breaks, you used to be able to have breaks, you used to be able to, you know, have different ways of getting this flood insurance down. Now you can't. So getting back to that guy that did the LOMA, his only avenue of security or safety, he's not getting any money back, but when he sells that property, now that it's an X, some mortgage companies won't need that flood insurance policy. That so when he sells a house is the only way that this LOMA now works for him, where LOMAs used to work all the time.
Are you thinking about selling your land in Greatwood?
No, no, I don't think I am. I'm gonna be an AE, and I'll just have to suck it up and build my house the way that I want to build it. But no, I
So if somebody offered you like 70 more percent than what you paid for it, you'd still hold it?
well, 70 more percent is definitely a bigger number. So I would definitely have to think about it. If somebody made me a cash offer that I could not refuse, yeah, I would probably sell it. I would probably sell it. I mean, when I came to Lake Charles, I bought that piece of land at 140. I got it appraised a few years later, and it was at 190. If somebody said, "Hey, here's $300,000 for your piece of land," yeah, I think I would be dumb not to take that and say, "Peace
We'll
out.
figure it out.
I'll figure it out. I'll go buy another
I
piece
was
of
gonna
land."
say,
If you want my piece of land that bad, yes, you can have it, bulkhead and all. But,
boy, I made a Caillou reference.
did I?
Did you say bald kid and all?
I said
Oh,
bulkhead.
thought he said bald kid. I was like, weird.
No, bulkhead. I had to double
Hashtag Epstein. Oh, my bad, my bad.
wow,
Actually, not
definitely.
my bad, but actually, let's just keep going.
So, but I mean, flood insurance is just I think that as a realtor, do you like have to be like, all right, guys, do you when you advise your client on buying a house, do you advise them on all the insurances that they're going to be needed?
Bro, yes, but I'm not proud to admit it, but I used to not, but I've been trying to create a better experience for my especially my buyers, especially if they're newer to the game. Now I have a sheet that I break down and pretty much everything that they'll spend money on, it's on this one sheet, and it's estimated numbers that I give them based on the deal, and honestly, I always overshoot numbers. So when they finally get the real CD back when it's time to close, they're like, "Holy, I got to bring 2,000 less dollars than I thought I would." I'm like, "Yeah, we just were preparing for the worst." But, like, flood is a huge factor in, like, because it's the PMI. All people really care about is their note at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
yeah,
You know? And that house that people didn't wanna pay me for is in a flood zone. And honestly, I was like, "I don't think this is the house for y'all." I just think that I don't like the flood being I think it was 4,000 on a $150,000 home.
yeah.
That's ridiculous, like 200 bucks a month almost and, if not a little more.
So I had a house in Sulphur on Invader. Great house.
Mhm.
Totally redone. And we had it priced right, but the problem was it's in the flood zone. And I think that's another thing that hurts uh some deals because it was a $200,000 house all day ready to go. But with the flood insurance, you were going to need somebody looking at 230. Well, why am I buying a $200,000 house if I'm in the $230,000 market? I could buy something better in a different area. And so people just walked away from it. This house was basically rebuilt. Never got flooded, but just totally rebuilt. Eh, yeah, I think it hurts deals, at least for me.
When I first started, when I was still on my, like, evil genius trying to figure it out, I was always trying to figure out why,
When
because
have you stopped Evil Genius?
a lot of, chill, chill, chill. What a lot of, because a lot of companies left the area with writing policies.
Yeah,
So I was like, what would it cost? And I know the payout would be where I'd probably have to fork up, but like, what would it take to just start a flood and like not be weird about it? Like, just be very fair with prices, like a private flood insurance company.
they do have private flood insurance
But I'm
companies.
saying if I were to start one, how would I go about that? Like, I was like, for a while, I was trying to research how to fix the insurance market. But here's the thing, you get all these people under policy and stuff, and then when the problem is when the hurricane hits.
Didn't we have this conversation when you were at Flavin?
Yes, exactly. Felt like a felt like a mystery gang. Jinkies, yeah.
Jinkies. We had no, but the thing is, we were talking about that of how to fix everything. Holy crap, I was part of his evil genius phase.
We need Sarah to run the books, to cook the books.
No, Sarah doesn't cook books, trust me.
Oh, if there's anything,
Trust me.
Sarah uncooks the books.
Oh, no.
Sarah
Sarah's on the safe side of everything. I'm like, "Babe, I hate paying taxes. Do you know if I don't pay the taxes right, we are going to not have this house because I make all the money and I will lose my job." I'm like, "Chill, chill." I was only joking,
kind of.
kind of. I mean, them okay, flood. Getting back to flood. Go ahead.
I just man, I hate talking about problems without having a solution, you know? Just being negative, but, like, there's houses sitting on the market now that if the flood wasn't so high, they'd have been sold, like, your house on Invade like, there's how like, I got people that want houses, but it just don't make sense financially, and, you flood insurance, you gotta account for holding costs, you gotta account for there's just so many things that go into a deal to add even to add 150 bucks to a payment could be the deal breaker.
Yeah,
Because 'cause you're talking about them with like, if you were to just to add the flood insurance into the monthly note, but, like, let's say if it wasn't about flood, but they bought, like, a nicer house, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It just don't add up. The
With the increase in everything that we do and the increase in every bit of what a person pays for, that little bit more money a month just hurts. And I don't know. Uh, I wish I would have had more on this topic.
No, I mean,
Vape bottom line into the startup. So you guys talking about flood insurance, or like if I'm buying a house for the first time, let's say I'm moving from Nashville.
Nashville. All right. I mean, when we talk about somebody moving from to Louisiana from a place in the mountains. You're going from, 7,000 above sea level to 16 feet above sea level. It how I think the explanation to them is like, okay, you can live in X flood zone and not have to pay it, but if you live in South Lake Charles, you could get flooded even if you're in X. how do we make that sense to get that sale done?
I mean, there's definitely stuff there equity having equity on the selling side could help a lot, meaning, like, the more money you've paid in towards your house's mortgage because the seller I've seen people offer, if they can't transfer the policy, to pay for the first year or 2 of a flood. I've had somebody pay for the first 3 years of a flood, like, out of pocket, outside of closing, cut the check, gave them the money just so they could close the house. So there's credits you can give, there's when I say credits, I mean, again, from the equity, you can be like, "Hey, we wanna put this money in escrow and just draw it straight from the escrow account to pay for it."
But you said another thing in there that I think is really important. Most flood insurance can be transferred, correct?
Yeah, and, like, there's people that will I've seen it to where they won't have flood insurance on the home. They'll put right before the sale, they'll buy the flood insurance so it's cheaper because if the current owner buys flood insurance versus the new buyer, it's
Yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, which allows it to be transferable. So, like, there's ways around it. It's just, are they willing to break and is there room to wiggle?
See, and another thing that we could talk about flood is if you bought so my father-in-law had a house, VE, which he's right by the water. And his flood insurance policy was like $1,500 a month. I mean, no, I'm sorry, $1,500 a year. And that's what we did in the act of sale. He just sold it in the act of sale. That's one of the buyer's requests that it would be transferred. And it was such a great price that it did get transferred. And that's what helps sales be made as well. Why do you think some houses sit on the market with flood insurance that can be transferred that they is it the agent not profusely saying, "Hey, the flood insurance can be transferred?" Is it what? What do you think stops a house that's on the market, say a house that's been on the market for 200 days in a flood zone, but the flood insurance can be transferred?
I think it's I think it's more on the just the overall hysteria and fear of the flood zone and the idea that your house value can stay the same, but expenses going up is what, excuse me, can scare some people away. I feel like half the agents ask about transferability, but a lot of times, if the good agents, I feel like put it in the description, like, hey, and I've listed and sold a couple houses in flood zone. At this point, I used to not be as straightforward, but now I've realized that you need to be point blank about everything with the house, but especially the flood. Be like, hey, it is an AE, but we can remedy the situation with XYZ.
Yeah. I think do you think adding things to the description we're gonna flip a little bit. We're gonna go off of flood real quick. Adding things to a description of a house. Say that you are offering like $10,000 in closing costs. Say the house is listed for 400,000 and you put $10,000 in closing costs in the description. Do you think that gets noticed nowadays?
For sure, but if I'm being honest, this is a buyer's market right now, and people expect it, in my opinion, at this point. Like, when I'm listing the house, I always tell people, "Hey, be ready for them to ask for like 5K in closing costs."
So what would you rather put it in the description where I think this is what I'm going to say about it. I think people don't really look at the descriptions anymore, especially with how much our MLSs, with Zillow and realtor.com, you have all these places that now your clients are looking, but they're ultimately going to come to you to say, okay, let's get the deal done but they've already looked at these houses. This is a house, this is a house, this is a house. I think people lose the descriptions. I would rather say, "Okay, let's just knock the price down." If you're offering $10,000 in closing and it's at 400, I would say be under 400. Be at the in this market, be at the bottom number that you really want to take, or right above that, knowing that they're going to probably ask for 5,000 in closing, and just sell that house. I think the descriptions of homes just, I think they fall short nowadays, and I would rather be bottom line number than saying motivated seller, $10,000 in closing. If your seller's really motivated, knock it off the number, I think, to get the house sold. This podcast was all over the place. Should have had a little bit better on this one. Do the normal. Okay. Yeah, I think I messed up on this podcast, but it's okay. Guys, Scott Werner with the Capstone Team, brokered by EXP. Donovan Johnson, Coldwell Banker. Give us a call. Like, subscribe, heart, whatever you do. Thanks.
You shoot, baby.